Lion Dynasty needs you. All craftsmen are needed for starting a new world from the ashes of our enemies. Hello, Stormies, and welcome back to Haylstorm's Adventures. I'm doing another, I guess, D&D recap is what I could call it, of my adventures with Brian's campaign. It was pretty interesting, kind of frustrating, but I will tell you how it went. So, we went to go and pick up our, well, it starts off where we're asleep. I'm asleep, the party's asleep, and I'm having a dream. Kind of like a nightmare. I dreamt that I was in a sunless room, swimming through nothingness. In the distance, there's a glowing creature, and I can see it swimming towards me. It's got a long serpentine body. It's pretty unnatural and strange looking. When I look in the scales, I can see myself reflected in it. But I'm screaming. It coils around me and embraces me. And I can hear it in my mind. A deep, maddening voice. It faces me. And it says, you've been here for quite some time. Better wake up before you forget how. So, that's what I experienced at the very beginning. So it's odd. And then when we all wake up, we go to collect our posters from the scribe Elith at the Wizard's Tower. He did a very good job. I will show you them. Look at that. Focus. It says the Red Lion Dynasty needs you. All craftsmen are needed for starting a new world from the ashes of our enemies. Meet Carrick and Carl at the Capital Docks on the 5th at high sun, setting sail at dawn. Craftsmen get 10 gold a week, and fighters get 50 gold a week. So we get that, but something's off about our friend Elith. His robes are all tattered, and we're just like, what happened? And he's like, well, the master, Almod, has been trying out some new things on Elith. And he's been receiving mysterious shipments at night. And ever since then, Elith hasn't been allowed in the basement. Or anywhere, really, other than his own quarters. And, of course, the main area. Where, we are. A traveler had come by the other day. And he sold Almod a black tome of spells. And that's kind of when this strangeness happened. The other weird thing is we could hear moans coming from the basement. We encourage Elith to join us down there, but he says no. He doesn't want to face the wrath of his master. But we go and investigate. It's dark. I have dark vision, so I can see. There's a bunch of crates, and corpses, and ghouls. There's a lot of ghouls. So many ghouls. I asked if, we wanted to retreat, but Carrick, the soldier, didn't want to retreat. He wanted to fight. We could have died. It got to a point. So, Katarina, the rogue, was just hiding and doing ranged attacks and stuff most of the time from behind a crate that she was hiding behind. Oh, and they lit a torch, so of course all of the ghouls could now see us. But it turned out to be a good thing that we fought all the ghouls, because there was a plot to have them invade the capital, which would have been bad. So we fought the ghouls. They were all like surrounding Carrick, and it wasn't looking good. And like I kept like I was slicing and dicing them, and I ripped one of their heads off. None of us are magic users, otherwise we probably could have lit them on fire. So what happened, we destroyed all of the ghouls, and then we opened one of the crates, and it had some sort of like small statue thing in there that was representative of the Eternal Empire. And it turns out that the wizard's a traitor, and he's working for the Eternal Empire. We found a note to him. And so we go back upstairs, and we hear screams, tortured screams coming from even higher up in the tower. And Elith is nowhere to be seen. So we go up and we enter the wizard's study, where he's got poor Elith on the ground, suffering, and like something is coming out of him. It's his soul. He's sucking Elith's soul out. We burst in the room, and the wizard is like, no! And then he blasts us out of the tower. He like teleports us out of the tower and shrinks us. So we're like, well, crap. We need to figure out how to get bigger. But then there's a giant squirrel. A giant squirrel. It picked me up, but I squirmed out of it. Squirmed out of its hands. And then we fought the giant squirrel. But that wasn't enough, because once the squirrel was dead, there was a giant snake. I say giant, but it's like in relation to us, because we were shrunk down super tiny. And the snake like just devours this now dead squirrel. And then we have to fight the snake. The snake is fought. And then there's a spider. We can't catch a break, man. It was like all combat. And once we defeat the spider, we hear laughter. And we look up. And there's this drunk guy. Turns out he's a bard. So we're like, hey man, can you help us out? Use your bard powers to, get us back to our normal sizes. So he agrees to help, but not for free. So we give him some gold. Katarina really likes this guy and is insisting that he comes with us wherever we go. So we bring him up to the tower with us. And we get there just in time to see the wizard leave via a portal and Ellis' seemingly lifeless body on the floor. Poor Ellis. I went over to his body, and there was no pulse. He was dead. I barely knew the guy, but I was heartbroken. But then we saw movement from under a blanket in the corner of the room. It was kind of muttering. So we removed the blanket, and there's a Warforged under there with like speaking like broken language. Like can't really form full sentences. It's like it had some wires needed to be fixed. So we fixed it. We fixed the Warforged so it could talk. And it turned out that Elith didn't really die. He was able to possess the Warforged. and he's a ghost now. And he showed us that and learned that he could possess people too. So he temporarily possessed Katarina. That was funny. Then he goes back into the Warforged body. And we're like, alright, well, you want to come with us? So he comes with us. And then the tower starts rumbling. And we're like, crap. So we book it out of the tower. And right as we leave the tower disappears. Like, well, where did it go? I can only assume the wizard took it with him. Why did he take so long? I don't know. But the tower's gone. And the townspeople, noticing that the large tower in town disappeared, have come out to see what's going on. Where'd the tower go? What happened? And it was all very odd. For them, I'm sure. And for us. I've never been shrunk before, so that was an interesting experience. And we also announced to the town that we are, recruiting to go and fight the Eternal Empire and to get the word out. Because, we're recruiting. We also have announced the name of our troop. It's ARC. I don't remember what that stands for. I keep forgetting. But we are ARC. And we are going to take an airship to a foreign land. And we will start anew and defeat the Eternal Empire. So, the townspeople are very confused. And it's like, well, what happened to Eleth? And Eleth looks terrified. And I ask him, like, what do you want me to tell them? Do you want me to tell them you're still alive? Or do you want me to tell them you died? And Eleth says, tell them I died. I was like, okay. So I tell the townspeople Eleth has died. They're pretty happy about that. And I'm just like, why? Because Eleth was a traitor. Is what they say. It's like, what makes him a traitor? Because the wizard was a traitor. He was gonna, give all your information to the friggin' Eternal Empire. And, like, well, the Eternal Empire is all elves, and Eleth is an elf. And the wizard being a traitor just proves it. It's like, that's not how that works at all. Not all elves are bad. Not all elves are part of the Eternal Empire. And they said, they told us that that Eleth came to the town from the Eternal Empire. Like, he was running to get away from it all. And just like, okay, so that's just, doesn't that speak more for him than against him? They're like, well, you can say anything. It's like, they weren't listening to reason. They were also fascinated by the Warforged. So anyway, we talked to the general. The general is very disappointed in Carrick. Because, we had flyers created saying where to meet. And the place we chose to meet is where the airship that we're going to take is located as well. So it's like, well, crap. He then tells us, then we talk to the general and, inform him of Almod and that he was a spy and he was evil. And then he tells Carrick to report to High Command in Catalal, the capital, to inspect the airship. So we go to Catalal. Pretty uneventful. The streets are flooded with people who are just going about their days. Lots of races, people from all walks of life. I was approached by a Goliath, and he's just like towering over me. He was questioning about who I am because he's never seen someone like me before. So I engage in conversation. And while that's happening, Katerina gets distracted by a child who's crying for her mother. And our bard is with us, I should mention. The drunk bard. And Katerina asks the bard to sing a page out to the area for the girl's mother. So he starts to do that, but then he gets distracted and starts singing other songs. The child disappears, and Katerina notices that she's short a few coins. She also has a note that was left in her purse. It's got a sigil of the Thieves Guild. Katerina also noticed that a smaller person was behind me as I was talking to this Goliath. And turns out he was a distraction so I could be pickpocketed, and I was short 10 gold. We then are approached by an arena crier asking if we want to join the arena. There are riches and glory. And there are sponsored prizes for the winners. I politely decline because I don't think my goddess would really be okay with it. But Katerina and Carrick are like, heck yeah. And if you enter the death tournament, where you fight to the death, you can win magic items. So they call that one the bloodletting tournament. So I go with Elith to watch from the stands. Katerina and Carrick enter the ramparts. And I keep forgetting about the drunken bard. He's with us too. The ramparts where Katerina and Carrick are just filled with all sorts of fighters. And as everyone's cheering, dust falls. You can hear a heavy iron chain opening a gate, letting the winner into the Hall of Victory. A large Tortolan barbarian with twin axes walks through and pays no attention to the others as he prepares for his next fight. The arena master asks who's next for glory. Katerina and Carrick answer and proceed to the staging area. An iron gate slams down behind them. They now have no escape for what's inside. The announcer introduces the combatants and the Moloch Brothers, the finest ogres that have graced this arena. The portcullis rises and the match commences. So, they're in their first fight against the Moloch Brothers, two ogres with heavy boat chains with hooks on the ends. Katerina runs in, firing shots at them with her bow and arrow. And the brothers charge in and whip their chains around the pillar, grabbing Katerina and dragging her from her cover. Carrick leaps over the chain that was meant for him and manages to slash into the flesh of the ogre who has a hold of Katerina, which gives her time to escape and fire a shot at the aggressor. The ogres are able to chain Carrick up, and they start to drag and beat him, but Katerina shoots an arrow through one of the ogre's eyes, killing him. His limp body arches backwards and falls heavily onto the blood-soaked sand of the arena. Seeing his brother killed, the other ogre goes into a rage and starts fighting Carrick, but catches nothing but his stalwart defense of his shield. A few arrows fly into him, and he dodges a slash from Spencer's sword. The ogre slams down his heavy chains, knocking Katerina unconscious for moments as Carrick reawakens her in time to dodge the next attack. The ogre pummels Carrick into the ground, knocking him to his knees and knocking his face into the sand. He's awoken by an inner voice and is encouraged to continue fighting, giving him a second chance. That inner voice was my goddess, because from the crowd I prayed to my goddess for their survival, and it helped. It worked. It only works once, sadly. So Carrick is kneeling in the sand as the ogre raises his chain to slam into Carrick for a final time. But then Katarina slides in and shoots a fatal blow into the eye of the ogre, killing him. He drops to his knees and falls face down, buried in blood and sand, next to Carrick. The fight's over. The crowd's going wild. Katarina postures at the crowd and gains a few extra coin. The combatants exit the arena and are renewed with vigor as they walk the halls of victory, restoring themselves for fighting shape. The two go out and collect their winnings from the bets they placed on themselves, and placing all or nothing on themselves again for another fight. Because what are they going to do if they lose? They won't need that money anymore. They'll be dead. I go and greet them and tell them how awesome their fight was, and then make my way back up to the crowd. And they get ready for another fight. Also, while they're waiting, there's like a shop in the ramparts in the area where the two are waiting, so they can get health potions if they need to use during the fight. And then they get ready for the next fight. So they go to the waiting area, and the combatants are again introduced, and they are now fighting Halrock the Vile, and he hungers for blood. The crowd cheers for blood. No one has seen Halrock the Vile defeated before. He's always won the overwhelming odds. Katarina recalls hearing of Halrock the Vile before. He's known for his noxious aura that poisons those around him. A second heavy iron gate slams down behind her, and Carrick seconds before the portcullis is opened, letting the combatants in the area. Halrock charged forth and thrashed at Carrick, but was merely deflected by his tower shield. Our two heroes are overwhelmed by the stench. Carrick is able to shrug off the foul scent and drive his blade deep into the beast while fortifying himself with a magical shield. Katarina is coughing from the fumes and stumbles away and hides from Halrock, pelting his hide with arrows. Halrock is tearing through Carrick's shield, leaving deep gashes through the iron and making attempts to bite the Dragonborn, that's Carrick, only to be thwarted and dodges to the side. Carrick thrusts... Sorry, I'm reading, and I've lost my spot, because it's all typed out. Carrick thrusts his long sword with precise aim into the monster's side, but the beast gives no sign of letting up its brutal assault. Katarina spots me, Sylara, in the crowd cheering for her, and takes aim, striking the beast with two arrows that embed deep within its skin, oozing poison from the wounds. Halrock bites and slashes with his claws at Carrick, but catches only shield and splint, tearing away pieces of armor with every onslaught, leaving metal scraps around the stalwart paladin. But Carrick gives nothing to Halrock and shrugs off the assaults, and retaliating with precise strikes to its limbs and torso. Katarina peeks from her cover and lets loose two more barbed arrows that find their target in Halrock's neck. Halrock stands tall and buries his talons into Carrick's shoulders and holds him in place as Halrock opens his vicious maw and clamps down around Carrick's coif, and beginning to chew on the Dragonborn's head. Katarina launches her assault on the monster, seeing the state of Carrick, and lets loose a barrage of arrows, piercing through the beast and shredding Halrock. Carrick, holding his nerve, unleashes his dragon within and lets loose his fiery breath down Halrock's throat, burning him from the inside out. Halrock's body steams and boils, popping poison pustules on his back from the heat from within that is now escaping through any means. Flame jets erupt through his wounds with brilliant opal flames, fracturing the monster from the inside out, crumbles to the floor with cooked meat and poison pools leaking into the bloodied sand. A last sigh of relief from the monster's lungs can be heard before the crowd screamed with excitement from what they had just witnessed. No attendee was sitting, and all were chanting Carrick's name for his magnificent killing blow. Carrick and Katarina boast to the crowd as coins and flowers fall onto them from the stands. The heavy iron gate rises as the combatants are allowed their due rest. The announcer calls for a courier to go and find the next to be challenged, inviting all in attendance to come back tomorrow for another hair-raising battle. Carrick and Katarina exit the arena and walk down the halls of victory, restoring their vitality and vigor. Going to collect their bets, Sylara joins her companions outside the Colosseum ramparts and congratulates them on the fight. So during that fight, of course, I'm cheering them on, but also talking to my new companion, Elith. Katarina and Carrick get their money that they bet on themselves. Pretty good bets. They get a lot of money. But yeah. That was our last 2 sessions. Next time, they're going to fight 2 more people. 2 more monsters. Beasts. Whatever you want to call them. I'm having fun. I know Brian's having fun. We're all having fun. It's a good time. If you enjoyed this video, let me know. Leave me a like, leave me a comment, leave me a something. That's how I know you like it. And let me know if you want me to, in the comments, let me know if you want me to do these like 1 session at a time, or cover multiple sessions in a single video. Because I can do either. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. If you want to see more content like this, don't forget to subscribe. And I hope I will see you next time. Bye. You thought the video was over. You thought wrong. So all the while Carrick and Katarina were fighting, I was having my own adventure with Elith. We were just talking about deities for whatever reason. And he has a theory. The theory is that deities aren't gods. Just really powerful people. Like us. But stronger. And I found that to be interesting. I didn't tell him he was wrong. Because there's really no way to know. And we also discussed the fact that the arena crier told us that there was some sort of magical barrier to prevent people from magically interfering with the arena fights. Elith can sense magic. And he didn't sense any. Doesn't sense any around the arena. And he wanted to go look around because he doesn't trust the arena. He's like, what if somebody's up in one of the booths or something ready to intervene with the fight and cheat? So we went and we wandered. He sensed powerful magic. And it turned out to belong to the wizard from the tower. As well as the person who burned down the chapel in the forest before we got to the town with the toddlers. And she's in leagues with the wizard. The necromancer. She's a necromancer. And I was telling him about the chapel. And the guy that the only remaining person from the chapel. He was trapped in a sarcophagus when we found him. Well, it turns out that guy was a fraud and that chapel actually burned down years ago. And the person who ran the chapel was our drunk friend, John the Bard. So I'm going to need to talk to him a little bit. We ended up... It turns out that the wizard and the necromancer and the guy from the chapel, they want to kill the gods. Because they think that the gods are just people. Like us. So, the theory is that there was a plan to draw me to the chapel so I would die. But I didn't. I also let Elith look at the alchemy things I took from the town with the toddlers. And, turns out... Now, I'm not telling anyone this. And I doubt that my friends are going to watch this anyway. If they find out, it's fine as long as they don't metagame. But the alchemist that created the potion created a spell. Not many people can create spells. Nobody can create spells. Except for the 9, as he called it. The spell was a spell of youth, which I guess is normally a side effect of certain spells. We don't know how he did it, but he deconstructed a spell and was able to take a property of it for youth to make it its own spell. Then we ended up investigating the booth that the wizard was in. There's a plot. They know that we're here because they saw our friends fight. So I still had some leftover youth potion. And we put it in the drinks. Then we left. Bought some popcorn. I'm back to the highway to jump out a window. Luckily I have slow fall. We disguised ourselves. And listened. Turned out our plan worked. The wizard and someone else was turned into a child. A small child. So we bought time for our friends. And next session I have to tell my friends what we found. I should also tell them that the wizard wants to kill the gods. Maybe that's what the Eternal Empire wants. We don't know. So, yeah. It's very interesting. And next time, my friends have 2 more things to fight. But, that's another day. I have time. The video's over for real now. I'll see you next time. Bye.